Hey everybody, I'm Josh. This is Pre-Hospital Network. This is not really how I wanted my first episode to go, but I did listen to a really cool podcast yesterday and I really wanted to talk about a few points that was made in it. And yeah, so hopefully later I'll be able to make an episode about who I am, what Pre-Hospital Network is, what I plan for it to be. But for now, this is just going to be like a really quick kind of episode about a pretty cool podcast I listened to yesterday. So there you go. All right, so yesterday I listened to episode 232 of the EMCrit podcast, which is by Dr. Scott Weingart. If you're in emergency medicine and you do any con ed or listen to any podcast, I'm sure you know who that is. If you don't, emcrit.org, check it out. It's fantastic. Tons of information there, more than I could ever use just being a paramedic. Lots of great information, not specific to EMS. It's emergency medicine, intensive care, resuscitation, really good stuff. I get a lot of use out of that information. This episode, 232, is a steel man debate between Dr. Scott Weingart and Dr. Howie Mell, who is ACEP subcommittee on EMS education. So pretty good guy to have in your debate on an EMS related issue. And so it's on the EMS field decision making during a cardiac arrest. So pretty big topic for pre-hospital medicine, so that's why I decided to cover it. I really recommend that you go and listen to that podcast. I'm not going to touch on a fraction of the information that was given in it because they do a fantastic job, way better than I ever could. And yeah, they say plenty for the topic. What I wanted to touch on was a few things that they said, that they brought up. All right, let me give you a little bit of background if you haven't listened to it or you plan on listening to it afterward. Should EMS stay on scene at a cardiac arrest and work it, do the full ACLS protocol 30, 40 minutes into it, or should they get their patient and transport? Now, this isn't your 85-year-old unwitnessed arrest that initially found in asystole. You know, stay there, work that one. That's the general consensus between the two of them. This is for your patient that you walk in and you really look and say, man, this person has potential to survive with good neurological outcome, witnessed arrest, bystander CPR, all the right things. So that's that patient. They're not talking about pediatrics here, because that's a whole different conversation. And I don't really think there's an argument in the EMS community on whether you should stay and work a kid or not. I mean, grab the kid and go. That's what we're doing right now. That's a stressful situation. And the best place to go is the hospital for that one. Anyways, that's the type of patient that we're talking about here. Scott Weingart really kind of has a good scenario. His scenario is if you've got mechanical CPR, if you've got a resuscitation center that's capable of going above and beyond, you know, that the physician there is going to have the portable ultrasound by their side, they're going to have ECMO capabilities, they're going to be able to take care of any other reason why this person's in cardiac arrest, and it's relatively close distance, sure, go take the patient, transport them. Dr. Mell, on the other hand, is kind of the group where EMS can stay, EMS can do some treatments, EMS can make some good decisions. And I also agree with that. But I agree that if you have the ability to transport immediately with mechanical CPR, you're going to maintain adequate compressions and resuscitation efforts throughout the entire transport, then do it. But Dr. Mell brings this sort of real life scenario to the argument, saying that not all services have that. Sorry. Not all services have those capabilities. Not all services have mechanical CPR. and not all services have a facility that is capable of going above and beyond ACLS. And in that case, they should stay with EMS, because we'll be able to do ACLS without any problems, and we won't have to pause resuscitation efforts to try and move the patient, transport them, whatever. So anyways, the key points that I wanted to point out from this podcast is, so one is they brought up transitioning from CPR to CCR, so cardiopulmonary resuscitation to cardiocerebral resuscitation. If you don't know what that is, I really recommend that you look it up. There's study after study out there. It's fantastic. The key points of that are, just like AHA tells us, good quality compressions, adequate depth, adequate rate. But the biggest thing about CCR is that they want continuous compressions. They want to limit the amount of pauses that there are. They want to limit the hands-off time. They want to limit all of that. And the best way of doing that is to not focus so much on the pulmonary aspect of resuscitation. I think this is best suited for our public education. So if we can start training people in CCR instead of CPR, I think we'll start have better outcomes with bystander CPR. And as we already know, we have, pretty decent outcomes whenever you have a bystander that knows good quality CPR and does it. So if we start doing education to the public on CCR, I think we'd have even better outcomes. And I think even with our providers, our EMTs, our medical responders, our volunteer firefighters, if we start training them in CCR, we'll have even better outcomes then. All right, so the other thing is mechanical compressions. I think every service in the United States and across the world should have mechanical compressions. The biggest argument I hear against that is that it's too expensive. Smaller services, or services with a lot of units that they have to staff, or services that are just underfunded, can't afford them. And that is a serious problem that we need to address. That is a public health issue. And we have grant writers going, working overtime trying to get these for their services. But that is the main argument that I hear, is that it's expensive. The other argument that I hear is that people that make the decisions, they're not seeing the outcomes change as much. And it's a good and bad thing, I think. I think that means that we have good compressions, which is great, because if we're doing as good as a machine, if not better, okay, I like it. We're doing things the right way. But here is the catch. One second. He is not happy about that. Not happy at all. Mechanical CPR allows us to continue compressions throughout transport, throughout extrication of that patient. So from that patient who is in the back room of their single wide trailer that hasn't been cleaned out in 20 years, we can throw them on mechanical CPR, and while we're moving them out of their house, they're going to get high quality compressions throughout that entire time. That will eventually show better patient outcomes. The other thing it allows for us to do is transport. They'll get adequate compressions throughout that entire time, and that really helps the safety of our responders. I don't know how many firefighters have gotten hurt, or EMTs, paramedics, whoever, first responders have gotten hurt in the back of an ambulance because they were doing CPR while they were moving down the road. And it's also bad CPR. I mean, you can't do good CPR bouncing down the road. It's just not adequate. The rate's different. The compression depth is different. There's long pauses. If they slam on the brakes, then you're going to get a huge break in compressions there. So mechanical CPR, I really like to hear that in their scenario and any of the transport scenarios, you have to have it. And I couldn't agree more. Let's see, what else was that last part? Oh, Dr. Scott Weingart brought up something that I couldn't agree with anymore. And that was transporting a patient who is actively going through resuscitation during their cardiac arrest, routine to the hospital. That is without lights and sirens, just slow and steady down the road. I could not agree more. Yeah, I was big smile on my face when I heard that, because there is no need to try and rush through to the hospital while you were doing good quality compressions. You're doing a good resuscitation on that patient. Only thing that speeding down the road will do is mess you up. You know, going slower provides a more steady and stable workplace. Of course, that's going to be better. It lowers the amount of stress that your providers are going through, because lights and sirens do amp up the adrenaline, and you're able to think a little bit more clearly, able to move a little bit better in that stable environment and that lower stress environment. And we need to lower the amount of stress that we go through as much as we can. There are special considerations. If you come up in a high traffic area and you need to move traffic, sure, run emergency. If you come up to a construction zone and they've got a lane closed and they're only allowing one way of traffic, at a time, put on those lights and sirens, let them know. I mean, there's no reason to sit in traffic and just assume that you're doing a good thing. No, I mean, we have to be sensible. We have to make the right call. But yeah, really, that's it. This is kind of my second attempt at this episode. The first one was going to be like 45 minutes long of me talking to a camera, and that's extremely boring. I'm sure this one's going to be too long, but it'll be a little bit better. And this is my first vlog ever. Hopefully it'll only get better from here. I really plan on putting out some content related to research, news, technology, events, all that sorts of stuff. I want to do interviews in the future with medical directors, with paramedics, with patients who've had good, bad experiences. I want to do a lot of stuff. I'm going to try and reduce the amount of dog noise and activity in my videos unless people like it, but I don't think you will. So anyways, again, my name's Josh. This is the Pre-Hospital Network, and I'll see you soon.